Hello, welcome back to Calm AF. This is episode 324. I'm Kristen Finch, and in today's episode, we are talking about little fires everywhere. Not the TV show. I am talking about the way that so many of you are moving through your life in this constant state of emergency. You wake up in the morning and you are out scanning for the little fires that either are still burning from yesterday or that have popped up overnight, other people's needs, other people's moods, emotions, conflicts that might erupt. So you do that every day. And obviously you get to the end of your day exhausted, but not the good kind of exhausted because you've made progress on the things that really matter to you today personally. It's because you spent your entire day in this reactionary, dysregulated energy. So because of that, you're not able to actually move forward in creating the life that you want. You don't have time. You're just managing the chaos. And the worst part of all of it is that you know that tomorrow's going to look exactly the same because so far you haven't woken up and scanned the universe and everyone put out their fires. Everyone was in a good mood. No one had any problems. There was no conflict. You know that there are going to be fires all the time. And you believe that you are the one that has to put them out. But what we're going to talk about today, first, this isn't sustainable, which I do believe you already know. You have experienced the burnout. That's why you're here. What I want to talk about today, though, is something you might not believe yet, is that this is truly, absolutely not necessary, living this way, putting out the little fires for 99.9999% of you. It's not necessary for you to operate from a hypervigilant, dysregulated state. Now, before we actually dive into the episode, we're going to pause right here. If you're listening and you're like, yeah, I agree, but I am the 0.00001%. My life is different, Kristen. My job is high stakes. I have very important work that affects a lot of other people. My people are very needy. They do need me urgently. If I slow down, the world may actually stop spinning. I don't have that luxury. If this is what your brain is offering you right now, I want to say with all the respect in the world, you're probably not the 0.0001%. There's a reason why it's 0.00001%. I work with people all day, every day, brilliant, successful, high performers who are very excellent at what they do, who have very important work. You have a lot of things on your plate. I get it. But I also know that your dysregulation and this idea that you have to be the one scanning for and putting out the little fires everywhere is not actually serving you. If that's you, if you are thinking you might be part of this 0.001%, I have a question that I want you to ask yourself before we move on. Do you actually, truly, genuinely want to feel better? I'm not talking about theoretically, not someday. Right now, do you actually want in your heart of hearts to stop living in this panicked, reactive, dysregulated Groundhog Day? If you do, then the first step is to stop telling yourself that this isn't possible for you. Because if every time you say, I don't like what I have right now, I want something different, and then you are offered a path forward that is different, and you start searching for why it won't work for you, why it's not possible for you, instead of listening with an open mind to say, how might it work for me? Then you aren't actually looking for change. You are really arguing to stay in your suffering. You might say you want calm, but you're still very attached to the story of chaos or to this identity of being the one who has to. I am the one who has to operate in this way every day. I am the one who has to put out all of the fires. If you want a different result, you are really going to have to let go of that identity, even if you don't know yet what it looks like or who you're going to be without it. If you're still listening, you haven't turned me off, then I encourage you, just take a deep breath right now and ask yourself, can I listen to this and look for how it might work for me? What if it was true? What if I found out that it was true, that I can still have success? I can still be really good at my job, excellent at my job. I can still move quickly, but I don't have to show up in a constant state of emergency. What if that was true? If you're still here, let's dive in. Okay, since we're already talking about fires, I spent almost every holiday with my mom's side of the family growing up. And I would say about 50% of my mom's side of the family, then and now, is involved in emergency services in some way. Firefighters, EMTs. If there were an emergency situation, half of my family would go towards the emergency. They would run into the burning building. What this meant was that on many, many occasions, we would be mid-birthday cake or just sitting down to Christmas dinner when suddenly all of the beepers in the room would start going off. And within minutes, half of the people in the room would be gone. And what I remember about it, it was kind of surreal. The beepers would go off and it didn't feel panicky at all. People were moving quickly, but the vibe was very calm. It almost didn't even disrupt whatever was happening. They would just stand up, maybe grab a couple dinner rolls on their way out the door, and, we'll be back as soon as we can. There wasn't panicking. When the beepers started going off, all of the people who had to go towards the emergency weren't looking at each other, panicking like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Where are my shoes? Is this the end for me? They would just stand up, pick up whatever they needed, and they were gone. And I didn't get to do any ride-alongs, so I can't say this 100%, but I can say with pretty high confidence that on the way to the fire, they weren't panicking in the fire truck. They weren't all looking at each other like, oh my God, we're going into a burning building. What if we all die? I don't think that's probably what firefighters are saying to each other on the way to the fire, even though they could, right? The risk isn't 0%. They were actually literally going to be running into a burning building. So why weren't they panicking? Why weren't they sitting around the dinner table before the beepers ever went off, worrying about the beepers going off? Why weren't they just sitting there like, I can't eat? I can't have Christmas dinner. What if the beeper goes off? Why weren't they doing that? The reason is because they had trained for the emergency and they trusted their training. They go through very rigorous training, not only physical training, go into practice fires and learn how to put things out, but also in the classroom, how to handle all of these different scenarios. They went through the training, they practiced being in the emergency, and then they trusted themselves to be able to handle the emergency when it happened. So let's think about our days. Unless you are walking into a literal burning building or a literal emergency, I'm not talking figurative or metaphorical, there's no reason that your nervous system needs to be living in a constant state of panic, waiting for it just in case. You've got a big project coming up with a very strict deadline. That's not a burning building. You've got an aggressive boss, a cranky client. These aren't burning buildings. You feel stuck in your business. You feel worried about your money. You feel worried about the future. Your kids are driving you crazy. Not burning buildings, but your nervous system doesn't seem to know that. You would think that someone literally did strap you to a fire truck and then shove you into a burning building. So why aren't the firefighters panicking when they are going into actual emergencies? How are they staying calm while you're spiraling over an email that had a weird tone? How? It's training, and it's trusting the training. Now, here's an interesting little piece of this puzzle. Because I know my people pretty well, there's a high likelihood that you are super calm in those high pressure situations. Like when shit really gets real, you shine. You can walk into a high pressure situation. You're calm AF in the courtroom, in the boardroom, in the classroom. You can walk into a room and ask for $15 million without batting an eye. You work on actual world problems like it's just another Tuesday. So why does it feel impossible to stay calm when someone's energy shifts? Here's why. It's because you've taken this thing that you're good at, handling high pressure situations, and you've decided that the secret to your success then is to treat everything like a high pressure situation. And because you aren't in those high pressure moments all day, every day, your nervous system creates them. It turns small moments, an offhand comment, that little look that you noticed that nobody else did, it turns these into 5-alarm fires because your story is that urgency equals excellence. When my clients are so exhausted from putting out all the little fires, and I tell them this is not what's creating your success, they often push back. They believe that this dysregulation is what makes them successful. And I say, okay, if you believe that, you must also believe that panic is what helps the firefighters put out the fires. If this is your logic, that your dysregulation is what's creating your success, then you probably are hoping, fingers crossed, that your surgeon is sitting around panicking all day long, worried. That's the surgeon you want, right? The one who's panicking. Or if you are flying somewhere, you must hope that your pilot has spent all of their time panicking, so much so that they are now burnt out and exhausted from all the worrying. That's your logic, right? No, you want your surgeon regulated. Someone operating from dysregulation, burnout, that's not who you want doing your surgery or flying your plane or putting out your fire. You've learned how to access calm only when you absolutely need it. Either when I am in the fire, that's when I am calm. After the fire, when the adrenaline clears, that's when I am allowed to give myself a minute to breathe. You know how to step into a regulated nervous system, but you haven't learned how to live there. If I'm going to be calm in the high pressure situation, the only way I can do that is if I am panicking all the way up to the situation. That's not how it works. Firefighters aren't panicking so that they can be calm when the emergency happens. They have already proven to themselves that I am calm in the fire, so there's no reason for me to be dysregulated before the fire. The firefighters trust their training. They only use it when they need it. And that's your work too, to learn how to trust yourself, how to trust that you do know how to operate when shit gets real, to trust that you can and have handled the real high pressure moments without spending your whole life setting little fires everywhere just to prove it. Your power isn't in being always constantly on high alert. Your power is in knowing that you don't have to be, that you can turn it on when you need it, but there's no reason to always be running at that high level. Because when every small little tiny thing feels like a threat, all you're doing is spending your days putting out the little fires instead of building the life you actually want. You don't need more practice on how to stay calm in the fire. You need to stop panicking on your way to it. You need to trust yourself that you already know how to handle the high pressure moments. You don't need to practice them anymore. You're past that. Now, if this episode is kind of grabbing you by the face, if you want to learn how to stop panicking on the way to the high pressure situation, how to start trusting your training, check out the Hyperachiever to High Performer private podcast. It's free. It's linked in the show notes. It will walk you through how to change the way you move through your day before you are starting any little fires or scanning the world for little fires to put out. That's it for today. Thank you for being with me. You're here to do big things. We need you regulated.